here for the people. We are outside the presence of our jury. Anything before I invite our jury back in, Mr. Rubenstein?
Judge, just to let the court know, we're going to ask to play the 911 call of Mr. Beigler. I believe it's Exhibit 200 next, and then after that will be the stipulation regarding what Nubia Martinez would testify to. If I can approach, I've got 1 copy for the court and 14 copies for the jurors to, I assumed we would do it the same as last time, where we would hand them out a copy so that they could read it while you're reading it to them, but that we would collect them ultimately.
Mr. Coleman?
That would be my request, that we collect them after.
Collect them after I read it to
Yes.
them?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I can approach.
Yes, sir. And by after I read it to them, do you mean immediately after or before deliberations or?
I mean, it's my intention that they would be able to read it along with the court's reading if they choose, and then immediately after that, they're all collected and taken with them. So it's treated as testimony. They get to hear it once and not read it over and over.
Okay, thank you. Any objection, Mr. Rubenstein?
That procedure's fine with people.
All right, thank you. Anything else before I invite our jury back into the courtroom? Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
Not for the
Mr. Colvin?
defense,
No?
thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and invite him back in. We're ready for the jury whenever they're ready. Okay, thank you. Bye. Please rise for our jury. Thank you. Please be seated. And for the record, our jury panel has now joined us back in the courtroom. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, if I may approach and retrieve Exhibit 200 at this time, we'd ask to publish that phone call.
Yes, you may. Any objection to publishing it at this time, Ms. Smith? No. No. All right, thank you. To publish, ladies and gentlemen, means that you're going to hear it in the courtroom. You'll also have the ability to look at some exhibits back in the jury room as well, but the recording, Exhibit 200, is published to the jury at this time. Thank you.
Yes, I need to talk to you about the missing person emergency. Okay, have you reported this person yet, or you need to report this person? No, we need to report this person. There should be, are you aware of a family of 3 children and then kind of non-English speaking workers show up at all? Not for everybody. you have her date of birth? I don't know the date of birth. Okay. What is your callback number that we had somebody call you at? Okay, 690-720-690-4441. 720-690-4111? No, 4441, and I gave those phone numbers to the little girl and told them to give them to the police as soon as she talked to them. Is there an alternate phone number? Yes, it's another one is 720-444-5177. Okay, sorry, you have to slow down for me. 720-404-5177. Okay, I'll have the sheriff's deputy give you a phone call here as soon as I can, okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
For the record, People's 200 has now been published to the jury. Thank you.
At this time, we'd ask the court to read the stipulation of what Nubia Martinez, we'd ask the court to read the stipulation as to what Nubia Martinez would have testified to.
Okay, thank you. If I could ask the bailiff to approach, I have a document to hand out to our jurors. Thank you. Thanks. Great, thank you. All of our jurors have the written document at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, this document is being given to you to help you follow along as I read the stipulation to you. After I read the stipulation to you, however, I have to take that document back from you. So just so you know that you'll only get to hear it one time, just as if the person were testifying. That document reads as follows, and the parties have agreed that if Nubia Martinez were called as a witness, she would testify as set forth in the stipulation. You should consider that stipulated testimony in the same way you consider testimony given here in court, and you should judge it in the same manner in which you judge the testimony of any witness who appeared and testified before you. Nubia Martinez stipulation. Nubia Martinez would testify that she was a nanny for Paige Bergfeld for about 6 months, from February of 2007 through about July 8th, 2007. She lived at Paige's home with Paige and Paige's 3 children, and 3 other members of Nubia's family lived there as well and had their own room. Paige and her 3 children would sleep in Paige's room. Nubia would testify that she cooked, cleaned, and took care of the children on a daily basis. She cared for the children during the evening hours when Paige would leave the house. It was not unusual for Paige to be gone during the evening hours. On June 28, 2007, Paige left the house at 10:30 in the morning in her red Ford Focus and told Nubia that she might be late coming home that evening. Nubia did not hear from Paige again, but Paige did call Jess Dixon in the evening and talk to her briefly at 8:30, which was 3.5 hours later than she was expected home. Nubia would say that Paige did not come home at all that evening and did not return at all after that. Paige did not usually call if she was going to be late, but was not unusually late. Nubia would testify that she and the children waited to report Paige missing until Saturday morning after she went missing, and that it was Nubia's idea to report Paige missing at that time. She would say that she and Jess went to the sheriff's office to report Paige missing. She would say that she was not scared, but certainly worried, as Paige had never previously spent the night away from home. That does conclude the court's reading of the stipulation. I'll ask the bailiff to collect these documents from our jury. Thank you.
Judge, and I think the last sentence of the middle paragraph, the court said was not unusually late, rather than she was not usually late.
Okay, let me just reread the last sentence then of the second paragraph. Nubia would say that Paige did not come home at all that evening and did not return at all after that. Paige did not usually call if she was going to be late, but was not usually late. Thank you. All right, thank you. And just for the record, I've collected the written copies of that stipulation. You can proceed, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, the people called Doug Norcross to the stand.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Good morning, sir. If you could approach, I need to give you an oath before you testify. We have a black cord stretched across your walkway there. You'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you, sir. If you'd have a seat in the green chair by the microphone, please. And then you can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
My name is Douglas Norcross, Norcross.
How are you employed?
I'm a sergeant with the Grand Junction Police Department.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
34 years,
How long have you been with the Grand Junction Police Department?
26.
What is your current assignment?
I am a sergeant for the Detective Division, Property Section.
Is that the same assignment that you had back in 2007?
No, it is not.
What was your assignment in 2007?
I was the sergeant for the traffic unit at the police department.
Did you work a traffic accident on June 28th, 2007?
I did.
What time was that accident called into law enforcement?
Approximately 6:37 p.m.
Did you block off any traffic as a result of that accident?
Yes, we did.
Why did that occur?
It was a fatal crash, and on fatal crash, there's a lot of investigative work to be done. So we block off an intersection while we can do some measurements and investigation.
On a fatal crash type accident where you have what I'm assuming is a larger level of investigation than non-fatal accidents, is that accurate?
Yes.
Approximately, what's the variance of time frame of how long it takes to investigate those?
It's, well, on scene, it's about a 2 to 3 hour process.
That traffic is blocked off for that amount of time?
Yes.
And then you may be investigating beyond that, but that's just the actual time traffic is blocked off?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know specifically on that evening how long traffic was blocked off?
It was 2 to 3 hours.
Where did this occur?
On 23 Road at G Road.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant, I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 201, and for the record, I've previously shown this to Defense Counsel.
Thank you.
What is Exhibit 201, Sergeant?
This is a map of 23 and G Road and the surrounding area.
And is that in Grand Junction, Colorado?
Yes, it is.
In that part of Mesa County?
Yes, it is.
Is there a yellow dot on that map?
Yes, there is.
And is that yellow dot in the area where this accident was?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 201.
Is there any objection, Ms. Smith? No. Peoples 201 is admitted without objection. Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask to electronically publish it.
That's fine, thank you.
Ms. Watson? Sergeant, I'm going.
Should appear on a TV screen in front of you up in the jury box as well, ladies and gentlemen, if that's helpful to you. If it's not working, please let us know. I'm not able to see your screens from here, so thank you.
Sergeant, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to approach and hand you a green laser pointer.
I believe there's one here.
Oh, there it is. Yes. So we'll see if that shows up. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to see that on the screen. So is that an electronic copy of Exhibit 201 that you just looked at?
It is.
Okay. Can you describe to the jury and show the area that you're talking about?
This is the intersection of the crash location. We had all four directions blocked off, starting with 23 Road at Highway 6 and 50 at this location. Also G Road at Highway 6 and 50. We had the north blocked off at 23 Road and Grand Park Drive, as well as G Road at 23 and 2/10 Road.
So are you familiar with where Bob Scott RV is?
I am.
Can you show the jury where that is?
It's located on this corner right here at Grand Park Drive and 23 Road.
Okay.
So just for the record, the parts that the witness identified of 201, the location of the accident, there's a yellow dot in the middle of 201, and then the other I'm sorry, what did you call the address?
It's Grand Park Drive.
Grand Park Drive was the first street located to the upper part or north part of that diagram. Thank you.
Is that all accurate, Sergeant?
Yes.
Okay, and you pointed to Bob Scott RV being at that intersection. If somebody was trying to get to the area of Bob Scott RV from either I-70 or Highway 6 and 50, can you describe how they would have to go in order to get there?
From I-70, they would have the option of coming up here to 22 Road, over to H Road, coming down 23 Road, and hitting Grand Park Drive.
So if I'm understanding correctly, where I-70 crosses 23 Road, you can't get off of I-70 there.
That's correct.
So you'd have to get off at the exit over near where it says Westgate Inn,
That would be one option, yes.
and then go north and come right back around.
Yes.
Is there a way to get there south?
You could always go to Highway 6 and 50 to 24 Road, 24 Road to G Road, to 23 and 2/10 up to Grand Park Drive.
Okay, so from the east side, you could go south of this area over to, is that 24 or 24 and a half?
24 Road.
24 Road, and then north, and then head back west?
Yes.
Okay. And similarly, if you were coming from I-70, if you'd have gotten off to the west of this, actually, 24 Road, you can get off of I-70 at 24 Road right there, is that right?
Yes, you can get off of I-70 from 24 Road, south to G Road, north to 23 and 2/10 Road to Grand Park Drive.
Okay. So in order, so from that direction, if somebody was wanting to get to the area of Bob Scott RV, they wouldn't necessarily be blocked off and have to get rerouted. They would be able to go north.
Well, they wouldn't be able to go to the intersection of 23 and G. They would have to take a right here at 23 and 2/10.
Okay, so a much smaller diversion than if they had to go all the way around and come in from the north.
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the investigation into the disappearance of Paige Bergfeld?
Minimally, yes.
Okay. and that was investigated by the sheriff's office, right?
That's correct.
And you work for the police department?
That's correct.
Okay, but the police department assisted in various ways?
That's correct.
And you're married to somebody who works at the sheriff's office as
I
well?
am.
Okay. Did you participate in that investigation at all?
No, I did not.
Are you aware that there was some evidence that relates to somebody complaining about being diverted, Ms. Bergfeld complaining about being diverted from a traffic accident on that day?
I am aware of that, yes.
As part of your duties as the sergeant of the traffic unit, would you be aware if there are any other accidents in the Grand Valley that would have caused traffic to be diverted that day?
Well, within the city limits of Grand Junction, yes, I would.
Okay. And within the city limits of Grand Junction, were there any other accidents on that date that required traffic be diverted?
Not that I'm aware of.
You would have been aware if there were?
Yes.
Okay. I thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Ms. Smith, whenever you're ready.
Okay, is it Sergeant?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, Sergeant. I just want to be clear that the traffic closed down for this accident at 6:36 PM, right?
Correct.
And traffic was reopened at 10 PM.
I'm estimating at some time about
Okay.
that, yes.
So does that mean you didn't review the traffic report before you came to testify about this traffic accident?
Well, the traffic report doesn't exactly reflect how long the intersection was closed.
It doesn't?
No.
So when it says from 6:36 to 10 PM, that's not the time that traffic was closed?
I'd have to see that report to see what it's referring to.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you
Your
may,
Honor?
thank you.
And I have here page 10,886. This is a Grand Junction Police Department traffic report, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so it says here from time and to time, right?
Yes, it does.
And do you want to just verify that I'm not tricking you and we're talking about the same accident? We can if you want, I don't know if you're concerned about that.
It appears to be this traffic
Okay.
accident report.
Okay. All right, and so the from time is 6:36, right?
Correct?
And the to time is 10 PM?
Correct.
Okay, so does that indicate the time that traffic was blocked off?
No, it does not.
What does that indicate then?
That's investigative time.
But I thought you said investigative time was when traffic was blocked off.
Well, that's not correct.
Okay.
Investigative time can be from the initial time you get there where you're redirecting traffic, you're trying to block off intersections, to the time when All of the vehicles have been removed, all of our measurements have been taken. The time that it takes you to pick up traffic cones, the time it takes you to get traffic back into place, collect all of your equipment. Maybe the officer would go back to the department and take some time to write that report. So it doesn't reflect the time that traffic was actually closed.
I see, okay. So your best guess is that traffic was closed about 2 to 3 hours?
2 to 3 hours.
And that's just based on your experience then with accidents of this sort?
That's correct.
Okay, so we don't know in this case when traffic actually started to be opened up again?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, may I approach the witness again?
Please, you may.
Thank you. So now I've handed you here what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit C as in cat and D as in dog, right?
Yes.
Do these look to be similar, maps as People's Exhibit 201?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And turning now to Exhibit C.
I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, which one is C and which one is D?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. C is the one that says Doug Norcross at the top.
Thank you.
Defendant's Exhibit C has a yellow dot in the middle, right?
That's correct.
And that's where the accident was?
That is
And it also has red lines, right?
correct.
Are those where traffic was blocked off? Did I get those right?
The red line at 23 Road and 6 of 50 is correct. The red line at 23 and Grand Park Drive is correct. The red line at 23 and a half in G is incorrect. That would have been blocked off at 23 and 2/10 Road.
Okay.
The red line indicated here at Colex Drive, I can't be certain whether it was at Colex Drive or at Highway 6 of 50.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Now, looking at Defendant's Exhibit D, there's the yellow dot signifying the traffic accident, right?
Correct?
And there's also a marker at 2512 Oleaster Court, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does that appear to be an accurate representation of that area of Grand Junction?
To the best of my knowledge, it does.
Okay. Well, and it's like kind of a zoomed out view of People's Exhibit 201, right?
Correct.
Okay. The defense moves to introduce Defense Exhibit D. That's the one without.
D is in David.
Yes.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Defendant's Exhibit D is in David is admitted. Thank you.
Okay, now may we publish that?
Any objection?
No, sir.
That's fine, you can proceed. Thank you.
All right, investigator, I'm sorry that's a nice vertical distorted view, but can we work with that, do you think?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, would you agree, Sergeant, that people tend to take the most direct route to where they're going?
Objection, lack of foundation.
The objection is sustained.
Okay. Sergeant Norcross, you study accidents, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what you do. Is that currently what you do for a living?
No,
Okay, but that's what you did for a living in 2007?
that's correct.
Okay, so part of studying accidents is knowing routes of travel, right?
Yes, when it involves a crash, you try to, as part of the reconstruction of that crash, you want to know directions of travel, yes.
Okay. And where people were coming from and where they're headed?
Sometimes that is valuable information, yes.
And in your experience, just, I guess, driving your car around, do you try to take the most direct route?
Objection, relevance?
What's the relevance of what the officer does?
Okay, I'll withdraw the question.
All right, the question's withdrawn, the jury's to disregard it.
Okay, may I
Thank you.
approach the map?
Yes,
Okay.
you may, thank you.
All right, Investigator Norcross, so what we have here, marked on the map is highway is I-70, right?
Yes,
Okay, and do you agree that Eagle, Colorado is to the east, so far off the map, right?
correct.
And when you're traveling westbound on I-70 from Eagle, if you want to get to the area of G and 23 Road, the first exit you come to is 24 Road, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and 24 Road is marked here on the map, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The second exit after 24 Road you would come to is the 6 and 50 exit, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And, what else was I gonna ask? Okay. Now, so if you're traveling westbound from Eagle, Colorado, and you wanna get to this area of G and 23 Road, the quickest distance would be to take the 24 Road exit, right?
I can't say for sure because I've never measured the distance myself, so
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't say whether it is the quickest or not.
Okay, let me ask you this then. If you're traveling that direction, certainly to take the 6 and 50 exit, you pass your destination, right?
Yes,
You go further west than you need to,
yes,
and then you'd have to come back east to get to this traffic accident.
yes,
Okay. Now, would you, based on this map, would you also agree that the 24 Road exit off of I-70 is the closest to the Oleander address that's marked?
yes, it is.
May I have just a brief moment?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, feel free to stretch, everybody, thank you.
May I approach?
Yeah, sure.
May I approach
You
the
can
witness?
proceed whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you. You
Yeah.
can approach as well. Thank you.
All right, Sergeant Norcross, I just want to fix this a little bit, make this clear. So defendants, the actual defendant's Exhibit D is portrait style, right? It's more horizontal.
Well, I would consider them both landscape.
Oh, that's what I meant, actually, landscape. Okay, but what's published is portrait.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's distorted, it's sort of distorted the map a little bit.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. I have nothing else.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Very briefly, Your Honor, thank you. Sergeant, the speed limit heading south on 24 Road, do you know what that speed limit is?
South on 24 Road?
From I-70 south on 24 Road.
I can't say that I do.
How about,
Oh, did you want that one?
it's okay. It's okay. How about this question? Is the speed limit greater on 6 and 50 than it is on 24 Road?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I realize you probably have not done any testing of this and measured it, but would it be fair to say that it's hard to know which would be faster, getting off at the 6 and 50 exit or getting off at the 24 Road exit, because the speed limits are different?
That's correct.
Okay. And you don't know either way?
I don't. I have not done any testing myself.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Smith, recross.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rubenstein,
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Norcross can be released as far as the people are concerned.
any objection to being released from your subpoena, Ms. Smith?
No.
No. All right, thank you, sir. You're released from your subpoena.
Your Honor, next the people call David Laux to the stand.
All right, thank you. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson.
Good morning, sir. If you could approach, I just need to give you an oath before you testify, and then we have a black cord stretched across your walkway, so you can just come up around this way, please. And then if you'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair by that microphone, please. Thank you. And then you can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
My name is David Laux, Loucks.
How are you currently employed?
I work for a company called Industrial Service Corp. in Iowa.
In Iowa? Did you used to live in Grand Junction, Colorado?
Grand Junction and Fruita, yes.
Okay. On June 28th of 2007, did you live here then?
I lived in Fruita.
Were you in the area of 23 and G Road on June 28th, 2007?
Yes.
Did you respond to a tip line request in 2007 where the sheriff's office was looking for people who were in that area?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing a red Ford Focus in that area?
Yes.
What did you observe at that time?
Just that it was sitting on the side of the road. It was just sitting there. There was nobody around it or anything like that, so.
Okay. Was there a traffic accident that evening?
I believe so, but it was further down the road. It didn't really affect me.
Was the traffic accident was at 23 and G Road?
If memory serves, I believe so, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Laux, I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 202, and for the record, I've previously shown this to defense counsel. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes,
What is it?
a map of the area,
Okay, and is there a yellow dot on that map?
right there in the corner of 23 and G.
Yes, is that yellow dot in the area where the traffic accident was that evening?
I believe so, yes.
And is there a red dot on that map?
Yes, up closer to the Acorn Travel Plaza.
And is that red dot in the area where you observed the red Ford Focus?
I believe so, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 202.
No objection.
People's 202 is admitted without objection. You can proceed, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd ask to publish that.
Is there any objection to publishing 202?
No.
All right, thank you. You can proceed.
Sir, an electronic copy of that is going to appear behind you on that TV. Okay, so first, Mr. Laux, are we looking at an electronic copy of Exhibit 202?
Yes,
Okay, so the red dot, that is the area where you saw the red Ford Focus?
yes.
Can you describe to the jury what you observed as far as what direction it was facing? I think you said there were no people around it, but do you recall what direction it was facing?
I believe east.
Okay, east, and that's facing towards the direction of the yellow dot?
Towards Fruta, so I believe so.
Okay, well,
No,
in looking at that map, can you tell which direction is east?
when I look at the map, no.
Are you familiar with this area?
Not anymore. I've left the area around 7 years ago, and don't live in the area anymore, so.
Okay. Do you recall talking to law enforcement about what happened?
I remember making the phone call, yes.
And when you made the phone call, that was on July 23rd of 2007?
Yes.
Was this much more fresh in your memory then?
Yes, because I did it on a regular basis. They're traveling the area. I
Okay.
did it on a regular basis at that time.
And was your memory of what you saw that evening much better back then as well?
About the subject at the time, yes.
Did you accurately relay to law enforcement the information that you observed?
At the time, yes. I told him everything I knew, and
And at the time that you reported this was July 23rd, so this was about 3 weeks after this happened? This happened on June 28th, 2007, right?
well, 'cause I remember I heard the description on the radio. And when I got home, my wife at the time, ex-wife now, she was talking about it.
Objection, hearsay.
Well, Mr. Rubenstein, do you intend to go into what she said, or just
No, sir.
part about she was talking about it?
I think he's relaying what caused him to report it. I don't think I'm not intending to go into what information she told him.
All right, the objection's overruled. There's no factual assertion. Thank you.
Mr. Laux, let me ask you, you're referring to what caused you to call the tip line?
Yes,
Okay, so as I understood it correctly, you heard something on the radio, then you went home and had a conversation
Yeah.
with your
they gave,
now
on the
ex-wife.
radio, they gave a description of the vehicle and a person they were looking for, person I knew nothing about, but I remembered seeing the vehicle, and that's when I called it in.
Okay, and so at the point you called it in was about 3.5 weeks after this occurred. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for the witness.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Ms. Smith, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay. So you remember, Mr. Lauk seeing this car when you got off work, right?
Yes.
And, at the time, you worked on Long Acre Drive, right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And Long Acre Drive there is, between the red dot and the yellow dot, right?
Yes, it's, back from looking here, it's a block away from the yellow.
Okay. And you left work around 8:30, right? 8:30 p.m.?
Usually, yes.
Okay. So it sounds like, you had a work schedule, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
And it was similar every day?
Similar, yes.
Okay. And what was similar about it is that you would get off at 8:30?
Sometimes later, sometimes earlier, but yes, usually around 8:30.
Around 8:30, okay. And this is only what, would you say about a minute or two away, right, from Long Acre Drive to where you saw the car? To drive that couple blocks?
Not 100% sure, but it sounds good.
And the time that you saw the car parked there was after you got off of work around 8:30?
It could have been closer to 9, but yes, around 8:30, 9 o'clock, yes.
Okay. Now, this 9 o'clock thing you're saying now, that's not what you told law enforcement, right?
And at the time, I believe I said around 8:30 or
Okay.
8:30, yes.
And didn't we just all agree that your memory was better
Better
than?
than it is now, yes.
Okay, and so if you
What about
told
the subject?
law enforcement 8:30, a couple weeks after you saw this car, that's probably more reliable than now saying closer to 9.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you say you saw the car facing Fruta?
I said, yes, I said it today, but honestly, wasn't that, I'm trying to remember it. Today I did say I saw it facing Fruta, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And before you said you saw it facing east?
Is that not the same direction? I'm not sure, I'm asking.
Okay,
Because like I
well,
said, it's been a few years since I've
Sure.
even lived in this area, I'm not sure which way is which.
okay, no
So-
problem, no problem. Now, you saw the car, when you saw the car, you saw it off in a ditch, right?
Side of the road, yes, ditch, side of the road, yes.
Okay. And so, when you say side of the road ditch, this could have been sort of a grassy or weedy area, is that true?
Yes,
And the car even caught your eye a little bit because it was on an incline?
not sure if it was inclined or not at this time,
Okay,
but it was a red car, it caught my eye.
okay. And part of the reason it caught your eye was because it was on the side of the road?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry, I apologize.
Now, what you had said before is that it was on an incline.
Okay,
Do you remember saying that before?
no,
Okay,
I don't remember saying that. Doesn't mean I didn't say it, just means I don't remember saying it.
okay. But at any rate, this car catches your eye because it's off the side of the road. It's off the side of the road in an area where there's vegetation, right?
Correct,
So, a place where maybe the car could have gotten some grass stuck underneath it or some sort of vegetation underneath it.
could have. And at that time, I didn't know if somebody needed help, and like I said before, I didn't see anybody around it, but I didn't know if somebody was there trying to need help, had a flat tire or something like that. I didn't see anybody, so I kept going.
Okay. Now, certainly, when you're getting off work around 8:30, see the car. This is about an hour and a half after 7 p.m., right?
Yes,
And do you happen to know how long it takes to get from Eagle, Colorado to the place you saw the car?
I have no idea.
So you don't know whether it takes more than an hour and a half to get from Eagle to where that red dot is?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I have nothing.
Mr. Rubenstein, redirect, please. Thank you, Your Honor. You're welcome.
The exact statement that you gave before was that it was just getting dusk out, and the car did not have any lights activated, is that right?
Yes.
When you say dusk, what does that mean to you?
Starts getting darker, you know,
So after the sunset, and it starts to
during
get dark?
sunset.
During, okay.
Yeah, during sunset, you know, it just starts, you know, getting darker.
And you noted that the car did not have any lights activated based on how light or dark it was. That was of note to you, is that right?
And there was no lights on, yes.
So-
It's just an observation.
So if it was light out, you probably wouldn't have noted that the car didn't have lights on, right?
No, I probably wouldn't have, yes.
I'm sorry,
I probably wouldn't have. no.
would not have.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
would not have, yes.
noteworthy to you because it was getting dark enough
Yeah,
that
it was getting about time, you're supposed to turn the lights on, so.
Okay. Now, Ms. Smith asked you if the area could have been grassy or weedy. Do you specifically remember if it was grassy or weedy, or just that it was possible?
Could have had grass on it, but it was possible.
So you don't
It was-
specifically
It was possible, I
remember?
don't remember 100%, no. But it was possible it could have had grass on it. I don't remember at this time.
Possible.
Yeah,
Did-
possible.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Smith, other questions for the witness? Sure.
And you also noticed that a car that was parked on the side of the road didn't have any hazard lights
Correct.
flashing, right?
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
lights whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing based on that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you wish for him to remain under subpoena, Mr. Rubenstein?
We would just until we have the impeachment witness testify, but yes, if we can remain under subpoena.
Yes. All right, you're still under subpoena, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
That means you can leave now, but stay in touch with the lawyers. Thank you. I will go ahead and take our lunch recess at this time, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember all the instructions for the recesses. Mr. Colvin may have something before we recess.
Yeah, I do.
You need to
and
approach.
I apologize for interrupting. Judge, Ms. Smith fixed my technical errors with the computer, and we could publish the correct version of that exhibit that was messed up. The exhibit's in evidence, I don't know that you want that, but I wanted that to be out there.
Mr. Rubenstein.
I'm not asking for it to be published. It's in evidence. If the defense wants to publish it, I certainly don't object.
Since we published something that wasn't correct, I think I probably need to ask.
Okay.
Can we do that real quick?
Did you want to do it electronically? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. You can proceed. Thank you.
Unless I screw it up again.
And was that exhibit D as in David that you're referring to? All right, thank you. The defense counsel will now republish exhibit D, but I think it'll be in the landscape format this time, so thank you.
Thank you, Judge. That's all we had, Judge, for the jury.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and take our lunch recess at this time, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember all the instructions for the recesses. We'll resume at 1 o'clock, so please report back to the jury commissioner's office at what time, please? At 1:45, please. Thank you so much. Please rise for our jury. Our jury has left the courtroom. Anything else, Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
Now for the defense.
All right, thank you. We're in recess until 1 o'clock, please. Thank you.